Do you want a new set of armour that's affordable, arrives super fast from Europe, and also supports Ukrainian armourers at the same time? Then use code MOLLY at medievalextreme.com for free express shipping.
All right, and then understand all of these rules have the caveat of rules are meant to be broken, and a lot of attacks may break these rules. But if you're taking control of a situation, then suddenly these rules don't apply. I don't like you to do these things if we're just like playing around. You do not have control of me, all right? So the first thing I tell everyone is like, you have to be on the rail. And specifically, what does being on the rail mean? You must have some portion of your weight supported by the rail. You are not on the rail if you're touching the rail, right? You're just standing next to the rail, all right? The reason this becomes so important is that basically the thing that a rail does is it cuts off at least half the angles I'm allowed to take my opponent, right? And possibly a little more than half when you consider that like straight down one way or the other is tough. Possible, but tough. So it almost takes like, instead of 180 degrees away, you're probably taking like 200, 210 degrees away from what I have to do. Which means I really need to take Dan, if I'm fighting Dan, like somewhere in this angle, right? Well, if I was standing in open field and I didn't want someone to take me that way and he was grabbing me, this makes it real hard for him to take me that way, right? Now it makes it real easy for me to go this way, but we got a rail, right? So this is, I know it's simple and obvious, but it's also really important to realize this is about where I need to take him to put him down. And this specifically braces against all forms of attack, essentially, that I'm able to do to him, all right? So that's rule number one. These rules are gonna become important because they're what I'm gonna look for people to break in order for me to take them down when I do it a 1v2. The second rule, Dan's already doing it. Rail side foot is forward, field side foot is back. Why is that? It's the exact same reason I just said. I can only take Dan this direction, all right? Dan's field side foot is his left foot. I must take Dan to his left. Which foot does he need to brace himself to not fall down if I take him that way? His left, which is the one that he is not giving me, right? I can go from here and go, and I just, even if I get him off the rail, he just has this, right? But if it switches around and his left foot is forward, now I go, and immediately I have the leg he needs to brace, right? Now the takedown becomes very easy, right? He's giving me the thing I need to reach to guarantee my takedown. So this is why field side leg stays back. Again, this would technically make him weak to going this way. There's a rail, all right? And we worked on ways that we can still make this work. We can pull it out, we can drag, but there's a lot of stuff to it. There's a lot of fight that gets there. The ready attack is not to go this way. The quick attack is to go this way, all right? And by having this leg forward, it's available. By having it back, I don't have a quick attack going this way. All right, then the last thing, and this one's a little more complicated, is I do not like people to engage their field side hand past the center line of my body on my field side, all right? Unless you are taking control. Like if he's going to roll into a press, that's fine. But if we're just hand fighting and he sits like this becomes very easy for me to force the other two mistakes that I just talked about, right? I get the clinch, I pull like this. It's very easy to start pulling him off the rail or force this leg forward where he's in a bad position. And then maybe he can move to the press. Like there's things that he can do, but again, it's just giving him sort of like a disadvantage, all right? So this hand can engage all day here. I can fight, I'm fine with like going for guillotines, all of that sort of stuff. But what I don't like is we're fighting and I start going like this, boom, and then, oh crap, right? Because he gets this big pull that I just handed him. So that's the last thing. I think it is, the thing I try to drill into my guys is it's not just important to know not to do these things so you don't get thrown. It's important to know why you don't do these things so that when your opponent does do those things, you can do that thing to them, right? It's not enough to not be punished. I also want to punish, all right? So, going into 1v2s, these are the 3 rules that I am looking for someone to try to break, and I will give examples that happen regularly of when people will break it, all right? Cool. That's the start. Now, we're starting out with, I just don't want to get taken down, all right? Why don't we just flip to this side?
Right, can you explain,
that was a dumb idea.
Can you explain that second rule really quick, the hand rule? Like, are you trying not to have it pass your opponent or across, like?
So center line.
The center line.
So I'm not pushing here. I'm pushing here. I'm not pushing here.
Got it.
Yes, because this is where
Got
I don't
so
want
the
to get
center line
trapped on
towards
this
the
side.
outside.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
it can engage everything if it's in front.
Yeah.
Like he can hand fight here and stuff. Boom, this is fine. But once this starts reaching here is where I start getting the ability to manipulate his body in a way that I don't like gifting my opponent.
Thank you.
Again,
This is what I'm doing.
right.
Yeah.
Again, rules are made to be broken. I tell my guys, I don't care if you break the rules. I just care that you can tell me that you know you're breaking the rule, and you can tell me why you're breaking the rule. And as long as you can tell me those 2 things, I don't care. Because if you're wrong, you'll learn, right? And if you're right, maybe I will. But there has to be a reason that you're doing it, and you have to be aware that you're doing it, or you're wrong. All right? Like, I don't care past that. I don't care if it's the dumbest reason ever. At least then you're experimenting, right? And there's a conclusion at the end. If you're doing it willy-nilly without realizing it's not an experiment, it's just making mistakes, right? So, as we get into 2v1s, you'll learn there's kind of 2 ways to break posture, like that aren't striking, right? And those are generally break posture from my head or disrupt my base, right? So my biggest goal in fighting a 2v1 is maintaining posture. I do not want to lose posture, all right? So the first thing that I do is ensure that I can maintain my base and ensure that they can't get my head broken over, all right? To that end, as these 2 people come in, well, let's go to this side, I think. That just makes more sense, all right? To that end, as these people come in, I will get very tight, all right? I want to protect my head, and I want to protect my ribs to a degree, so I'll stay down here, and I want to keep my feet close together. Now, the reason for this is from what I have found, right? Normally, feet close together seems a little weird, right? Like, I shouldn't have my feet close together. It's not a good base, right? Well, with the added stability of here, I still have 2 points of contact. And with these guys on either side of me, it's difficult for me to like suddenly like, it's hard for them to take me one way or the other through a push. Now, pulls can happen, all right? But I'm gonna defend very hard against pulls, all right? So, once base is close together, I'm gonna base close together so that if someone attacks my base, it's very easy for me to remove and replace the leg that's taken, all right? If I'm spread out like this and Dan grabs that leg, boom, it's just real hard for me to start figuring out what to do, right? I gotta pull in. Now I don't like it, right? Things are going bad real quick. If I'm real close together and he tries to do this, boom, it's really easy for me to just go, starts to pull.
It's not working. It's not working. What is this witchcraft?
Right? So
Here's the strength
having
of 2
my
men.
feet together allows me to remove and replace either one without it disrupting my balance.
Because you've got all of that weight on the same point, effectively.
Correct. You have to watch out for like someone with a killer kick possibly, but generally I'm leaned back far enough that I don't have issues with it. Every now and then I'll have someone who can drop me a couple of inches and I can normally recover. I have not been put down with one of those yet. But they
kick out this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It is, do be aware of it, right? So this is generally how I'm going to protect my legs, and I'm going to be very quick to, like, if someone starts to get a wrap, kick out. Boom. Like, don't let them have it. Kick that and get right back and back to here, all right? And having my feet close together allows me to switch, do whatever I want very quickly without disrupting the rest of it. Second thing is head, all right? I don't want head control. The way I'm going to defend it is very much the same way that you would defend like a choke in BJJ, right? I'm gonna basically answer the phone on both sides, all right? Where I go like this, all right? My goal is that if any of them try to grab my head, they must do it over my equipment, all right? So if you come up and grab my head, either one, boom. It's over my equipment, so this is very easy. Boom, I'm straight back out. Boom, it's not gonna happen, right? Boom, he moved there, and then Dan grabs on this side. Boom, as long as I have this here, the elbow up high, easy for me to push off. I'm just maintaining posture right now. I don't care about anything. I want them to not get the easy takedowns, because if I wanna win, I need them to start making some mistakes, all right? So, before looking for the mistakes, we stay up by protecting head and by keeping a tight base, all right? Yes?
Quick question. As somebody who was recently in this position with you, if you're trying to answer the phone on both sides, how do you defend your liver? Just tuck your head.
Elbows to your hips, elbows on the rib cage, and then you got that point behind you and your feet planted in, and then you can become a short shell. Because
Gotcha.
it's like dirty boxing position defense, right? Like when I get inside, I'm here, like I'm a short C to protect in. Now, I mean, there's gonna be small openings, but you gotta
With shields
And I'll be honest, there's a chance that like I've got this up and someone takes a hard shot and I go and tuck to protect this. Oh, okay, that sucked, right? But like maybe I go up here and I start defending, but I don't want to ever go like, right? Sometimes one arm is just enough, right? From either side, one arm is enough, because as long as they're going over, I can still push. I generally do two, because people will start working both ways. I'm like pushing this off and then this guy's immediately grabbing, so I need this to push off, and they work. So I like having them both up. You know, if one dude's just beating the shit out of you, you know, maybe defend him and then make sure that guy doesn't take your head, right? There's going to be some like playing, right?
Copy that. Thank
Get
you.
a really good cruise.
And you're not just standing there. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like an ocean position.
Yeah, a cruise snatch. Get a really good one. Get a fully banded cruise snatch. Like mine's got. I lost 80 pounds, so I got all this room in it. So when people hit me and like, I literally don't feel a fucking thing. Like, it's like go ahead all day long. I don't even care. Yeah.
All right. So, where the mistakes start to happen,
Okay.
a lot of times people will start getting some amount of head control. It's not enough that you can't slip, but it's enough that they start pulling you around, right? And so a lot of times you'll end up getting into positions where you're turned more towards one person than the other, right? It just kind of happens, you're kind of forced into it. 9 times out of 10, maybe even 14 out of 15, if I'm trying to win a 2v1 or a 1v2, I'm trying to throw the person my back is to. All right? That's the person who's gonna be dumb almost every time. All right? That's the guy who decides he's gonna do something big, whatever it is, and that's what I'm looking for. All right? So what was the first rule of rail fighting? Always be on the rail, all right? This is the first thing I look for. It's the most readily available. Is maybe I'm fighting right here, he's got my back, boom, and you'll see him decide he wants to kind of get a better angle, and so he'll kind of push around here, boom, and just kind of circle just a hair, boom. So they start doing this. This happens all the time. Easy money, right? Boom. Like down,
Clean.
instantly. Sorry, that was
No,
okay, good.
it was
Right.
okay.
I'm just literally looking for someone to step around off the rail where I know they no longer have the support of the rail, and they're an easy throw because they can't be leaning into this rail that makes them super heavy, all right? And again, it's almost always the guy behind you. The person you're facing is like, oh, I'm in a fight, I'm gonna be smart. The person behind you is like, I don't gotta do shit, he ain't even looking at me, right? So, that's the general thing I look for when they come off the rail. And this happens a lot of ways. Sometimes I'll be fighting this, and this guy will just decide to full circle, shoulder press, kind of like this, and I can hit right there in a standard rail throw. there's lots of different ways that this can happen, but I'm just looking for one of them to make one of the mistakes. And then I'm going to attack, and I'm going to attack like committed. And if I need to, and often I will do this, I'm gonna hug the shit out of the other dude and pretend he's my rail. All right? So I will full rail throw, like, boom, you know, he comes up tight, we're in like this, and I'll go, boom, and I'll throw like this. And my whole thing is like, Dan is going to keep me up. And yeah, Dan can fall over and we can all fall, but
You took 2 guys out.
Dan doesn't like to fall over. One, I take 2 guys out, but honestly, it never happens. Dan's not gonna let us drag him down. Dan's gonna be like, no, I'm fucking staying standing. And then most of the time it means I'm staying standing, right?
And then you take me down there.
Hopefully. We can only hope. I sometimes think one-on-ones are harder than 2v1s. People are dumber in 2v1s.
Yeah, a lot of people work against each other.
Yeah. People make a lot of mistakes in 2v1s because there's another person in their way. They're trying to figure out how to work with their partner, and especially if they're not like really on top of it, they're like, this isn't working. What if I kind of come over? Oh, I'm down. Right? They're just trying to find ways to help. So they do dumb shit a lot. All right? So the second one I'm looking for. What?
They think they have the advantage. Well, I mean, technically they should.
Yeah, yes.
They play soft here because
Exactly. They know they have the advantage, and they think that advantage means
So they immediately negate their own advantage.
I mean, through our experimentation, if you have 2 highly skilled people that are working together, it doesn't matter who you are. You're not going to stay up.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's a matter of 30 seconds or less. Like, you're going to go down. And that's like, the point is most people don't actually work together. And you got to use that to your advantage, being the one.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's about stalling out their initial attacks. If you can make their initial attacks not work, if you can be disciplined with those, they go, shit, what do I got to do now? Okay, let me see if and then you throw them, right? Because they're trying to get experimental because they haven't spent hours and hours and hours working on a 2v1. So they're experimenting in the match to make mistakes. So what was the second rule that I talked about? Standing on the rail. Rail foot forward, all right? So this one I see I see this mistake made the most when people are going for head rips, all right? And it is a very easy counter to a head rip if you can get it, all right? So if I'm fighting Dan, right, and he comes up to head rip me, right? A smart head rip has this foot back still, right? And he's breaking in my hip, and then go high for it.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
go
And now things become really problematic, right? But often if you resist this head rip, this guy wants to get stronger, and so he'll try to sit down into it a little bit. But often he'll bring this foot forward a little to sit down so he can really sit down. And he's still in the rail, so a lot of times they feel very confident in this, right? This is one of my favorite counters in the game. I just always tell, for head rip, I always teach shoulder goes to rail instantly, right? Shoulder goes to rail instantly. From here, if that foot is forward, I just drive my shoulder through and hook this leg. So I just go, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, a little headbutt.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will just drive that straight down, and it's there so often. And the harder they try to pull you down, the easier the takedown is, right? As they go as they're like sitting here and they're really like, get the fuck, and then you just hook them and they're down, right? So head rips, I don't know about in Australia how prevalent they are. They're probably the number one attack in the U.S., or they're definitely one of the number one attacks in the U.S.
They're quite prevalent.
Yeah, they're pretty common.
Yeah.
We haven't got a lot of that 2v1 micro stuff that you guys are starting to perfect down, but they're still very common.
Okay, perfect. So that head rip, watch for this mistake. It happens a lot, and it's because the person's trying to drag you down, and this is a good safe position. This doesn't feel as powerful as being like, fuck it. Where you're really dragging them down. The second that leg comes forward, you have the attack. All right? We're going to. That's 2v2 or 2v1 instead of 1v2, right? Last one. I'll give one example for it. You can do it a couple of different ways, but this is a counter to a head rip or just a grab from behind. The third rule was don't cross. Yeah, out, like don't go deep to rail side or field side. Don't go past center line, rail side. So people will often go for a head rip, and you can do this over or under, both works. So like let's say he's coming up behind me and he wants the head rip, right? We're fighting right here. So maybe one of the ways I'll do it is I'll just protect right here, and sometimes people will just automatically be like, I'm okay with grabbing under, right? Like so his left arm will go under, boom, and they're like, I'm fine with this grip, all right? So this is one of my favorite ones. I think it's super easy. The second this comes under, he's not gonna pull me back from the chest here, right? But if I hook right here, I kind of have control. And if he really will just grab a hold of me like this, yeah, try to pull me backwards, you can really just dive forward, lift and throw, right? And the tighter he holds, the easier it is to lift him, right? And the reason is like, just I'm not gonna throw you, grab real tight, boom. As this is tight, when I lean, stay tight, 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 tight. Boom. When I lean, he automatically comes off the ground because he pulls himself up. And a lot of times in the initial moment, the fighter thinks you're trying to get away. So they will tighten down rather than release. They don't think they're getting thrown. They're like, this motherfucker's trying to break out of my grip. And it ain't happening, right? I'm big and strong. And then their feet come off the ground. And by that time, it's hard for them to bail in time to stay up, all right? We can do this exact same attack if someone is doing a head rip, as long as we know it's there, right? So this comes up, I might defend in front just to make sure, and I want him to kind of tighten down, and once he tightens down, this arm goes, and I can throw like that. And I'm gonna block his outside leg. I'm not doing it right now, so I don't keep throwing him on the ground after the first one. This is just deep engagement of that arm without actually taking control. So this is a lot of things. I'm gonna have y'all get together. I want you to get in groups of 3s, and we're gonna go through all of this, but we're gonna go through kind of light, and I want this to be a little more cerebral than
Physical,
all right? So first, feel what it's like to stay tight and protect your head, all right? I don't want grips here. If something goes for my feet, boom, it's easy to move, all right? No one gets controlling grips. That's all I care about, right? I'm fine with all of this. I don't want anyone getting controlling grips. I don't want my posture broken, all right? That's where we're gonna start. Once you get a kind of feel for that, then we'll play into the mistakes that people make and how we're gonna take advantage of it, all right? A lot of the mistakes are taken advantage of by attacks that you already know, that we've already gone over. Like it's not a whole lot of like brand new, never seen that before. It's just utilizing it in a way that you may not have thought to utilize it yet. Cool? All right, let's get together. Groups of 3, 3, 2, 1.
Do you like the look of our team's custom activewear? Are you in need of some of your own for martial arts and fitness training? Then look no further than xmartial.com. Stand out from the crowd with your own badass design. X Martial offer high quality rash guards, spats, training shorts and more, perfect for wearing underneath your sword fighting protective gear. Featuring highly durable and flexible materials, offering full range of motion while keeping form-fitting and highlighting your well-earned gains. There are dozens of amazing designs already on offer on their website. Check them out for yourself using the link in the description and use our code STEELWOLF for 10% off your next order at xmartial.com.